the Global Virtual Summit 2026. Before going to start our session, I would like to introduce you to our audience. Let me introduce you to your audience. Are you ready with the car? Mitchell Hansen is a former professional vocalist and experienced educational leader with over 25 years of impact across performance, music education, and school leadership, having served as deputy principal and CEO of the Westgate Trade Training Center. She champions innovation, vocational pathways, and leadership development. Today, she empowers women to redefine, respect, and step into their next chapter with confidence, clarity, and purpose. That was a wonderful bio, Michli. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Well, hello everyone, or I should say good day from down under in Australia. And it's wonderful to have you here joining with me on this session called Redefining Respect. Moving from external conditioning definitions to an empowered, self-defined standard. I aim to challenge societal norms, dismantle limiting stereotypes, and inspire you to lead yourselves with confidence, clarity, and purpose so you can step boldly into your new stage of life. Now, can I just get you to start by popping one word in the chat? So when you hear the word respect, what comes to your mind? Okay. So, some of the things we can think about when we talk about respect: being strong, being kind, having authority, being polite. They're usually some of the things that come up. Now, just quietly, I'd like you to consider this. How many of those types of words do you use to describe how you treat yourself? It's a tough question, isn't it? Because many of us have been taught that respect means being agreeable, being accommodating, and being easy to get along with. We're praised for being low maintenance, rewarded for being flexible, celebrated for being selfless, but rarely taught, at least I found this in my personal experience, rarely taught that respect for us includes boundaries, standards, and self-trust. So today, I want to challenge all of that and want to help you redefine what respect means and looks like for you. Now, when you look at some of the research and reality, and I mentioned here, we've got this workforce paradox. I'm new to this platform. I'm not sure if you can see my slides, if my slides are up, but we've got part one being the conditioning, which covers the workforce paradox. And in that, I want to unpack the likability competence, which is the double bind. So the double bind is a well-documented bias where women leaders are judged on two conflicting standards, those two standards being likability and agentic competence, okay, which is their level of assertiveness and or decisiveness. Now, women who express strength and expertise are often perceived as being less likable. Let that sit with you. I'll circle back to that. While those who prioritize warmth are seen as less competent. This trade-off very rarely applies to men who can both be respected and liked without backlash. It just doesn't seem fair, does it? So you've got the scholars like Schneider and Tinsley who describe it as an impossible choice, that women must balance traits that society deems feminine with those leadership demands that are typically coded as masculine. And this research shows that women on corporate boards adapt their strategic style to navigate backlash. And that constantly managing this balance contributes to fatigue and burnout. Like, honestly, tell me I'm wrong. Classic social psychology also links this double bind to gender stereotypes in the warmth of competence framework, where women are expected to be communal or warm, yet judged harshly for displaying agency. So this underpins a very powerful truth for me, which is respect isn't earned by shrinking or people pleasing. It emerges when women embody both strength and authenticity on their own terms. Now, I've actually got two mini stories I would love to throw in there to share with you. So back when I was a less developed middle leader, I'm going to say probably about 8 years ago when I returned back to Brisbane, we had what was called an SLT, or a senior leadership team meeting, and they were after school for a couple of hours every afternoon. Once a week in the afternoon. And people would complain, we're hungry, it's the end of the day. So I took it upon myself, bring some food and some snacks. And do you know what I noticed? Do you know what I noticed? Week after week after week, nobody else brought food and snacks. I thought I was leading the way. But no, that didn't happen. People came to expect that I was the one bringing the food and snacks. And what I found was my voice became less important in that room as a result. And I found some research at the time that supported that. And I had a conversation with my line manager, and he turned to me and said, my reflection on that, I came back to him. I said, look, I've read this article. What do you think? I'm actually thinking I'm going to stop bringing food for everyone to enjoy while we sit through this 2-hour meeting. And he turned to me and he said, Michelle, I agree. Don't do it again. And I haven't again. So that was a good learning of me being soft, okay, in that warmth, likability, but then my voice wasn't heard. Fast forward to 2 years later, when I received my next promotion, and the feedback I got from a higher line manager when I was hired for this particular job was, I work in a building full of women. Some of them have expressed they're a bit worried about you coming into our building. I was like, what? I bend over backwards for everyone. I try and do this. I try and do that. And they said, yes, but some of the assertiveness has come off as aggressive. Can you believe it? So straight away, I've been caught in this double bind in the space of 2 years. So I had to do some work. I had to engage in some personal conversations, but it's just a real indication that this likability competence double bind is 100% real. So if you're thinking for a second, what is going on? Don't. You're 100% right. Okay. So part 2 of redefining respect for yourself, I've named reclamation. And for the purposes of this event, I am using the definition that reclamation is the process of claiming something back or reasserting a right. And it's a term that works so well for me in both my personal and my professional life and the journey I have been on, particularly in the last 5 to 6 years. So think about it. Think about it. At some stage of your life, you're going to go through a career shift, a divorce, or an ending of a relationship, a leadership role, perhaps it's motherhood, a life move, some other sort of transition, even empty nesting, but something that is pivotal in your world that creates a shift within us. Because then you'll see that the version of you no longer fits. And your reclamation begins when you decide, I will no longer over explain my boundaries. I will not shrink my ambition. And 3, I will not apologize for evolving. Now, on that last note, there's an entire personal story there I could get into, but not for this session. I think that's going to have to be for another session. It's big, it's messy, and it's painful, but it's real. So if we think about defining the pivotal moments for us where we step into this reclamation stage of our lives, it could be you set a firm boundary for the first time. It could be you spoke up despite feeling uncomfortable. I'm just going to adjust this. I realize you couldn't see my hand, sorry. And the moment you choose growth over approval. So I want you to think about how some of those might fit into your world. Because I want you to think about, what did that feel like in your body? How did your body react? Was there fear? Was there the expected outcome, or was there an unexpected outcome? So it's not rebellion as well, it's alignment. And if I could use this example, I was called into a very large meeting. This is 12 months ago, actually, a very large meeting, completely blinded, like it was the day before, very short. Like I said, a lot of people in the room. So every possible person, regardless of level, that had any sort of stake in this portfolio were called into this room. There was no agenda given. There was no context. There was no pre-discussions. There were no heads up. None of that happened or occurred prior to that meeting. But in that particular meeting, my line manager handed out documents to everyone of a portfolio that I control and lead. I had not seen those documents prior to that meeting. We were given 5 minutes to review that. Now, there was some information in those documents that should have only been shared with the key people, not the 20 people that were in the room. It only needed to have 5 because it had direct impact on their position and the actions that they might need to take. So as my immediate team was spread across the table, I'm copying glances here. It's like, what is going on, Michelle? You didn't tell me about, like the faces were telling me, you didn't tell me about this, Michelle. You've blindsided me, Michelle. The truth is I hadn't. I had actually been blindsided by my own line manager. That's hard to say, but it's true. And we were sitting beside each other. And then going through it, my line manager says, Michelle, I'd like you to feed back to the group about what you're reading right now. And I was like, I actually can't do that. I need time to go away to consider it, to think about it, etc. Unfortunately, my line manager came back another 2 times and said, no, I want you to do that now. And I said, please, no, I've just seen this. Nobody else in this team has seen this. I'm not prepared to make any public comment as a matter of minutes being recorded without having time to go away and process what's here and come back and give you my best version of that. So that was hard because as we talked about the conditioning that we've had, and certainly I've had that conditioning, that was very hard because I would never normally talk back, if you like, or hold a boundary like that. But it needed to happen. And as you can probably appreciate, there was a lot more that happened after that meeting, and it took a series of meetings and conversations and weeks to get that back on track. It actually, unfortunately, derailed that whole project for a period of time. Anyway, we got there. So the point being is that was also a great example of me holding that boundary. In that moment, I did feel fear because in front of everybody, I was telling my boss, no, that's not a reasonable request, even though I didn't use those words. So I'd like you to do this for me right now, please, not in the chat, but just privately. Can you write down somewhere for me? What have you outgrown but you still tolerate? What have you outgrown, but you're still tolerating? I would like you to do that reflection for me just now, please. Okay. So I just want to circle back because I realize I've jumped a part of my presentation. So I do apologize, but we're talking about conditioning. And as someone who has grown up in a family where I was taught that I had to be a good girl and I was praised for doing the right thing. Does that sound familiar with anyone? I know it's not the same across all cultures and across the globe, but certainly for me and for how we have been living here in Australia, it has been a massive, massive thing. And I can see it in my professional life for the last 25 years. The young girls are still, this is how we behave, this is how we use it. There is a shift coming through. I can tell you in the most recent generation. Again, that might be a meeting for another time because I'm not necessarily certain that's the healthiest way forward for our young people either. So when I asked you about what respect means, and I've got some people here who've said valuing others, valuing yourself, and we talked about that likability, competence, double mind. So that's a double bind, sorry. So that's part of the conditioning. And one of the first things we have to do as women is we have to identify it. We have to identify it. You know, be ambitious, but not intimidating. Be confident, but not too assertive. Age gracefully, but not visibly. Lead, but don't disrupt. Now, my little story in that is that I actually had someone who wasn't in my team, but I was working closely with, and this is probably about 7 years now, come up to me and go, Michelle, I love the way you work. You came in, you disrupted it, and you fixed it. You're a disruptor. I went home going, oh my God, I'm a disruptor? I caused that much trouble? Now I'm like, yep, that's me. I'm the disruptor. I'm the one you can bring in to say, have a look, please make the assessment. Now, please go in and do all the necessary changes and disrupt it so we can make it better and improvement. That is what I do well. That is what I do well. And if you haven't read it yet, I'm going to implore you actually. There is a fantastic book called Disrupt Her, and it's written by, and I hope I get the pronunciation correct, Midi Agrawal. And I remember very clearly back in 2020, it was the summer of 2020, it was very, very hot here. And I started reading this book, and I was so moved and empowered by what I read that at 11 pages into this book, I took a photo of the book on my lap. I was sitting on the edge of my pool with my feet in the pool, and I posted it to my social media and to everyone. And I said, please, everyone, men and women, you need to read this book. And then I said, Midi speaks a brutal truth. So if you haven't heard of it, please go and read it. It's called Disrupt Her by Midi Agrawal. That's Agrawal. It will blow your mind. So I wanted to leave that there with you. Okay. So circling back now to reclamation that we're talking about, the disruption is good. You're not fitting in anymore. And it's a point where there's a massive shift in your world. So you're really starting to define respect for yourself on your own terms in this phase. But in addition to what we've now talked about, you also need to have courage in this space. So this is where you have to really dig deep. What does your version of respect look like? Is it setting boundaries without apology? Is it saying no without over explaining? Is it speaking your truth? Is it changing your mind, taking up space, or starting again? So when you decide that your peace, your purpose, and your growth are no longer negotiable, you start to reclaim your respect, you stop performing, and you start leading. So if you've got any comments you want to pop in there around that, I'd love to hear them. Now, I can tell you that after I read Mitty's book in 2020, some things really started to change for me, because the things that I had gone, how do I say, untoward, I suppose, in my personal life with my main relationship that I very, very strongly valued, I came to a brutal realization that that was not working for me. And it wasn't working for me because I was being disrespected by someone who supposedly loved me every single day. Now, unfortunately, that got worse and worse. The higher I went, the worse it seemed to get. Anyway, that's something that I will go into a little bit more as we start to talk about part 3, which is self-leadership. So we touched on a little bit about that. Once you've had your reclamation moment, you've defined what respect means for you. Now you have to step in and lead yourself. So I mentioned before, I grew up being taught that respect was not a given right. You had to, something I had to earn. But how do you earn the respect of another person? Now, as girls at the time, and for me, in my personal and professional experiences, I can see that we have been so conditioned to be well-behaved, good-mannered, kind, and to serve others. And I've given you examples of that throughout this talk today. And that was our way of earning respect. And I'm certain we can all agree. I'm certain we can all agree respect is not something that you demand from someone. That's not going to work. I've now learned that it isn't necessarily what you earn. There are things you can do to earn respect. But for me, it's something I embody. So when I've set my boundaries, my limitations, learning to say no, not over explaining, I don't need to give the 30-minute version of why I did or didn't do something. Saying, oh, I don't see it that way anymore, I've changed my mind. Those things have given me personal and professional power. So I now embody that respect. And what I've had to do to lead myself and to switch that into having an executive presence is that I honor my core values, my beliefs, and my belief of how I want people to treat me. So I'm going to make sure I treat them like that. Part of that is also calling out inappropriate, poor, or unprofessional behaviour, and in the ways and means of the situation, how it is necessary. So, if you're going to lead yourself, you need to start asking yourself these questions. Does the decision I'm about to make honour the person I'm becoming? Am I shrinking to avoid discomfort? And am I choosing peace or am I choosing approval? Now, those last two were massive ones for me initially and probably the biggest ones. And when I come down to it now, asking myself if I choose peace or approval, if I'm leaning towards the approval, that's not a decision for me. It's not the right one straight away. And I make different decisions. Right now, my reflection is around the decision making I make Is it honoring who I'm becoming? And if it's not honoring who I am now, holding my core beliefs and values on where I'm going in the next evolution of Michelle Hampson, then it doesn't happen. And they are my guiding questions right now. So when you choose to lead yourself, you stop negotiating your standards, you stop chasing validation. And look, this is a hard one, right? Because you've got to really think about the kinds of things that are driving you in this behavior. And when we look at the emotional regulation, that's you choosing calmness and being responsive rather than reactive. Now I can see a couple of stuff has come up on the chat. I'm sorry, there seems to be a delay, so I'm not getting it. I think that's a wonderful question. Who wrote that one? I think that's Shelley. How has the definition of respect evolved from a generational requirement to a mutual inclusive interaction? That's a fantastic question. How does honoring your own boundaries and needs affect the way you show respect to others? Yes, wonderful. I'm not sure if I can address both of those, but I'm going to give it a crack now. So I'll go back to what I was saying before, which was when you know your core values, you know your beliefs, and you, like for me, I walk in personal integrity every day. So if I'm not checking myself that my actions and how I treat and respect other people aren't coming from a respectful place for me first, then it's not appropriate for me. Okay. So the story I want to talk to you about there was, you need to think about whether it's something that's in alignment with you, even though it cost you something, or you've walked away from an opportunity or a relationship. Maybe you made a bold move without consensus. But you need to think about the long-term result. Now, for me, mine was walking away from a lifetime relationship. And it was very dark, and it was very, very difficult to manage with a person who had authority and power over me that I didn't have, like legal authority and power over me that I didn't have. But I'm not going to go into that today. That's a whole separate thing. But I did that because let me tell you this, when a woman deeply respects herself, other people feel that energy. They feel it, right? They absolutely feel it. So I'm asking you to reflect on your actions and how you can act in alignment. So you're having your emotional responsibility, you're setting your clear boundaries, intentional and decisive decision making, and you're committing to your own personal growth over the approval of others. The questions I want you to ask yourself again, does this align with the woman I'm becoming? Am I shrinking to be accepted? Am I abandoning myself to avoid discomfort? Because it's not about controlling others. This is about governing yourself with integrity and compassion. And when we lead ourselves, we naturally command respect because we embody it. Okay. I know we're running out of time. Whatever stage of life you find yourself in right now or what's coming for you, I want to leave you with this. This is whatever stage and growth and reclamation you're going through. It's not a decline. You're refining. You're not becoming harder. You're becoming clearer. And respect is not going to be earned by you disappearing. It's cultivating by you knowing yourself first and acting and living in integrity. So the next time you feel the urge to over-explain, over-apologize, over-accommodate, I want you to ask yourself, what would self-respect do here? And then trust the answer. Here, you'll feel it. Trust that answer. Because the most powerful form of respect is going to be the one you give yourself. Okay. Ladies and folks, I have put in there a little reflection tool, leadership reflection tool, if you want to have a look at that. I also want to let you know as I start to wrap up, I know I'm on time. Felix, how do leaders show respect through their actions? So for me, Felix, I am transparent. I'm honest and I work in integrity. I'm not inviting people into meetings they don't know why they're there for. I use an approach where I ask people to reflect on their own behavior so I don't have to, like if it's an imbalance in power and I'm having to come over and say, well, this is, this is a bit of a problem, I don't address it like that. I make sure that I think about how I would like it addressed first. I hope that helps you there, Felix. I wanted to let you know as well that I have an ebook coming up, and I also
Hello, Mitchell. Sorry to interrupt. You're on mute. Due to technical issue, she left the stage. Um, she shared the wonderful speech and the presentation. Just a second. She joined the stage. Mitchell, please unmute.
No, can you see me? No.
Hello. Am I
Oh, we're
audible to
back.
you? Okay, that's fine. You can continue now.
No, I can't hear anything.
Yeah. You can continue.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
so much. I was just finishing that. I've got sorry, thanks, Melinda. That I've got an ebook that will be coming out this year called Redefining Respect, which is a woman leader's guide to authority without apology. And I've also got a bit of a program, a coaching program coming together called Redefining Respect, a leadership impact model. I'm terribly sorry about that. I want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been an honour and a privilege, and I look forward to any other questions. Please reach out to me. I've put on the slides there my email address. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect and hear from you.
that was very informative session, Melinda. Okay, we have few more questions from our audience. I'm asking one of them. How does honoring your own boundaries and needs affect the way you show respect to others?
Yes, so I did touch into that during our talk as well. So I'm happy to go over that again. So for me, honouring your own boundaries and needs actually helps you maintain and show more respect for other people, particularly when you think about the way you'd like to be treated rather than some of the other ways that people can behave. Sorry, Melinda, I can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for answering the questions. We have few more questions from our audience.
Right, let's have a look.
We directly share it to your email. You can answer there.
Absolutely.
Please stay on the backstage and join the next sessions.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.